Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanissia, this is the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast, and today I am joining you for episode 20 of the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast. I'm so excited, as always, I literally say that every episode, to come back to you with an update on all of my projects. This time we have 4 finished objects, which is a stark difference from last episode's 1 finished item. We have a bunch of whips, a lot of them you have seen before, a couple of new ones, and then not really acquisitions per se, but again just some swatches, some plans, and a bit of a reflection on how my autumn plans have been going, although it'll be brief, and then just a bit of a teaser of what's about to come for winter. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty standard episode. I'm looking forward to it. It's a dark and gloomy day here today. It's Saturday and I've been waiting all morning for the light to come in the flat, and it really hasn't, so this is what we have, and I hope that the cozy vibes are what you're looking for. I'm getting used to my new editing software. I hope that you've noticed that the quality of the video has increased a little bit in the last couple of episodes compared to like 3 or 4 episodes ago. Again, it's just baby steps and trying to slowly go back to videos that I'm happy with, but at the end of the day, we're just here for the knitting, and I know that I'm not being held to a standard of movie production. So yeah, thank you so much for all the lovely words of encouragement. As always, you guys are what is making this experience like so much more worth it as a podcaster, and I'm always looking for ways to engage with you in different ways and have a back and forth. So there will be more on that. I'll do a bit of a teaser at the end of the episode, and then a big announcement will come in a couple of weeks. So anyway, I'll stop being shady and vague. As always, you can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram at thewoollyworker, and you can also find me on Ko-fi or Ko-fi if you wanted to say thank you in a bit of a different way, or you could buy me a pattern from my Ravelry wishlist, and all the links will be down below in the description. On Ravelry you will find all of the details of my projects, like the needle size, the yarn weights, any pattern notes. Like, I just really keep Ravelry as updated as possible for my own sake, but I know that you guys have found my Ravelry notes useful, so it's there if you need it. And if you want to skip ahead to any of the sections, again, there's timestamps and everything is in the description below, so definitely have a look there first, and if not, obviously always leave a comment or drop me a message on Instagram. I hope to reply to every single one of them. If I ever missed one of your messages or you never got a response from me, by all means, please get back in touch. It wasn't intentional, and I do mean to reply to you, so don't hesitate to double text. I think that's everything for the little intro. I wanted to thank you for the love on the previous video. It was a special episode all about my abandoned whips, and it was really motivating to film and have feedback on some of the pieces. You guys helped me finish one of them, so I will show that in today's episode, and a couple of them have gone back on my needles. So yeah, thank you so much for liking that video. It was encouraging again to try different types of videos and formats. I basically regularly do a podcast episode every other week and then a different type of video every other week, staggered. That's kind of what works for me, and yeah, I hope that you enjoy them. And last bit of announcement, I was doing a partnership with Woolly Knit a few weeks ago, and when this video comes out on Monday, it's the last day to use the discount and also participate in the knit along. So if you have any whip photos using any Woolly Knit yarn, then make sure to post it on Instagram tonight and use the hashtag WWXWK, and then I will enter all of these and I will pick the winner of the giveaway on Tuesday. So someone will win 2 cones of Woolly Knit yarn, which will be shipped worldwide. So this is your last reminder, last chance to participate in that giveaway. So yeah, I think that's it. We'll just get into it. What I am wearing today is my finished object, and it is the sweater number 22 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I don't know, maybe this whole time when I've been speaking, you can't take your eyes off of this. I certainly can't. We took some photos yesterday, and I was just so amazed. Like, it is exactly what I was wanting. Like, it is everything I dreamed of. It was what I had in mind. Everything about it I love. I love the length of the sleeves. They're extremely cozy. I love how the detail on the shoulder falls perfectly, but I'll talk about the little specifics first, and then I'll go into this project. So My Favorite Things Knitwear, it's made in lana Peruvian Highland wool in the colors black and camel, black as the main color. I was playing a bit of yarn chicken and I actually lost, so the actual total weights of this yarn, I used 7 skeins of the black and 4 and a bit of the camel. And I actually did run out of black, but what I did was that I had a woolly knit cone in black, and it is a light fingering. So what I did was I held that triple, which was able to meet the same gauge as the Lana Peruvian Highland Wool held single, which is kind of like a heavy DK worsted. And then I did basically 2 or 3 rows of the black ribbing. I did that in the woolly knit, which like there's absolutely zero way to tell, even by feel. I think I could get away with that because it was literally black, like carbon black for both of them, and not even like some kind of reddish black or bluish black. Like they're just true black, which is perfect. And I was very relieved not to have to buy 1 extra ball of lana, but it did make the experience a little bit stressful. The other thing that I'm really happy with is that the button band I wasn't like the happiest with when I had just sewed them on. I thought it didn't look the neatest. I was worried that it was very heavy and thick, that there's basically there's 2 button bands on top of each other because the buttons are actually attached through a buttonhole. There's actual buttonholes in this. It's not just like decorative buttons. So this actually works and opens up. And I was worried that it was pulling and heavy and noticeable, as opposed to this other shoulder, which only has short rows, which, by the way, can we appreciate that clean line? Oh, I'm just so pleased with the lines on this. And then with blocking, this shoulder completely relaxed, and I cannot feel at all that there's something going on in there, that there's a double thickness, that there's more yarn on this side. Both shoulders feel really symmetrical and relaxed in the same way. And I was also worried that the yarn is quite heavy, and I was worried that I would be feeling that I'm carrying a lot of weight on the shoulders, etc. But you don't. This is just very cozy and very comfortable. And the yarn is next to skin soft for me anyway. And okay, 1 second. I don't know if you noticed, but the microphone was a bit far away, so maybe the sound will have changed. But anyway, so yeah, I was worried that it was going to be too heavy, but it's not. It's really comfortable. The construction for this I go into much more detail in previous episodes, but basically it's a drop shoulder, but you have to kind of cast on separately for the front of the right shoulder and the back of the right shoulder, and they're not joined until the very end when you're picking up for the sleeve. That's when you actually join them, but all before that, those have to be made flat, and then you pick up for the button band, and there's a lot of ends to weave in. I think one of the other reasons why I ran out of black is because there was just so much starting and stopping where I had to cut the yarn, and so you lose a lot of black yarn. I did carry it through the stripes, but it was really just for the buttons that, like this area, I just had so much black ends, and it was not the worst to weave in, to be honest, and it was worth it, so I'm pleased with that. The neck as well, because of the way that you construct this button band, you don't just pick up all around and knit the neck in the round, you actually knit the neck flat, so that was also very fun, although you had to do twisted rib, so like fully twisted rib and not just half twisted rib, but it was only for a few rounds. There's a really nice little like twisted cuff detail with a like I guess contrast color here at the end, which I've never done before. I know that for example the stripe hype sweater, which was very popular this summer, had that where you get a little line. I know some people do that on the cuff of the socks where they just cast on with a color and then they keep doing the ribbing in a different color. No, it's really nice. It's one of my, it's something that I never thought I would be hugely into, but then having it I like. And same for the colors. Like, I mean, I never really wear brown or camel, but with the black, I'm just like, I feel so cozy and classy and cool. And I hope that you enjoy the photos that I will probably have spammed you with. We took photos yesterday and it was just so dark again. So again, sorry, bear with me while we deal with the winter. I was quite lucky to end the stripe sequence the correct way, because obviously with stripes you have to make a decision. If your sleeve is too short, is like, well, do I add a full repeat of black and camel to then end up at the black for the ribbing, or do I just suck it up and finish earlier and hopefully stretch it more? You know what I mean. So I was lucky and the sleeve length was exactly right, and I was worried it was going to grow too much with blocking, but it only grew just to make this a tad more cozy. Like maybe before it was there, and then I gained like 1 or 2 centimeters, like really just nothing to be upset about. For the body length as well, at this point I was pretty much, it was dictated by how much black yarn I had, so I reached the length that I was required to anyway. I could have maybe cropped it one stripe repeat just to make it a little cooler again. I don't know what is the most flattering sweater length from my body shape. You know, I don't like the ones that go way too far down. Like, I don't like very long sweaters, but I don't also like cropped sweaters. So, and also for practical reasons, I don't want the sweater to be too cropped and not be warm enough. This is really warm, by the way. So yeah, I guess again, I'm just still always experimenting with sleeve length and body length, but I'm 11 out of 10 happy with the sleeves on this one, and then the body is just like, yeah, it's okay. It's a nice length, but it's not. I was having a lot of fun with the legs pullover I did last time that the length was cropped, and that felt really cool. This is just like average. So yeah, the sleeves were really fast. It took only 2 days to make one sleeve, 2 days to make the other one. Then the body was a bit of a slog, and then also it took so long to dry. It was insane. Like, I was genuinely worried it wouldn't be dry for today filming, even though I finished this over a week ago. But yeah, it was also very affordable. So I'll show you the total cost of this project here. Even if I had to buy another skein of black, they're only less than £4 for a skein, so it would have been completely fine, but it would have been only for 3 rows, so I would have been a bit annoyed. The way that I calculate my total cost, by the way, is that I calculate it to the gram or to the meter, and I also take into account if I bought that yarn on sale, because I write down how much the yarn costs when I purchase it and not like what it's worth now. So that's why maybe the total cost of my items here may seem a bit smaller than what it would be now for you, and obviously it depends on the currencies and the different shops, etc. So those prices I put on screen are very much for my own records, but I know people find this valuable and interesting, so that's why I keep putting them, because I guess it gives a bit of an idea of what you can achieve with different ranges of budgets, because I know I've got more expensive sweaters than this, and I've got cheaper sweaters than this, but I think that this is, for the happiness that this brings me, like, the cost per happiness unit is just like very top notch. So yeah, I don't know if I would make another one of these, just in the sense that I don't need 2 sweaters that have this button band. If I made one again, maybe I wouldn't even stripe it, although I love the stripes on that, like just for that shoulder thing. Again, this is perfection. And here on this side as well, like it's just, it's so cute. Like, you can see a bit of black here, then your stripe of brown and black that they get kind of swallowed in the button band. It's perfect, and I highly recommend this pattern to anyone. It is a little bit trickier than some other patterns, but the pattern is really well written and it helps you, and there's notes on Ravelry, and if you struggle, just message me, and then I hopefully would help you too. So I think that's it for this pattern. I'll talk about my next finished object, which is another garment, and it is the Lana vest by Irene Lynn. I made this with Cascade 220 heathers in the colorway Walnut Heather, and I used 3.5 skeins of it. I thought I was only going to need 3. Like, that third ball was taking forever to finish, and then I just basically had the rib to do for the body, and I was like, come on, that's not going to take a lot of yarn. But then the body took so much more yarn, the ribbing of the body took so much more yarn than I thought it would. So in the end, I was happy to have bought the appropriate amount of yarn, and it was an affordable yarn as well. I went down a needle size because it's a worsted weight, and the original pattern is in Aran. And I was worried all throughout knitting this that it was tiny. Like, everything about it looked tiny. The neck opening, the armhole depth, the shoulder width, the circumference, like everything just looked so small. And I was doubting myself, and I thought, should I block it? Would I change anything if I blocked it? Probably not, so I won't, because I just want to keep working on this. And then when I did block it, it grew so much, because I think just the yarn is like a non-superwash wool, so it'll have a tendency to grow. And then the cables, obviously, then the start of the show, they opened up a lot. And then the sides of this vest are the moss stitch panels, and they also just like stretched so much. And I could have even stretched it more, but I was trying to not, basically, because I didn't want the cables to flatten too much, and I was a bit worried, actually, if anything, that I flattened everything too much, but I think it will replump itself. So I will also show photos of this. I will probably take them today after I finish filming this. But here's my Lana vest. And again, it's not a very me color, is it? I bought it quite a while ago, probably over a year ago, and my tastes have changed a little bit. I basically didn't want just a white Aran vest because I knew I was going to end up with a lot of white cables if I just always picked like the classic cream Aran cables color. And then I didn't want something that was too dark because I didn't want the cables to be too obscured, so I went for like a middle kind of shade, like pretty much the same value as this one, the camel. And yeah, so you've got that little knits and pearls detail on the center, and then you've got mirrored cables that twist inwards, which is nice. Then some braided cables, more of a twist, and then the moss stitch. And then on the side, you actually have another cable that runs down, and it splits itself into the split hem. So hopefully I will have shown a photo at some point that shows that detail from closer, and it is just amazing. Like the pattern is really well written because all of those details, obviously she, the designer, thought of them herself beforehand, and then she explains them well. So it's like the idea is really good and then the execution is really good as well. The one modification that I did was that for the split hem, I wanted to have a neater edge for the edge that is exposed. So I slipped the first stitch on both the right and the wrong side. So when I was doing a knit, I was slipping with the yarn in back. And when I was slipping the pearls on the wrong side, I was doing it with yarn in front. And that's on my Ravelry. And I think it's a nice little edge. Then for all the ribbings, I bound off in pattern, so in rib. It's pretty much 2x2 rib all the time. So I just bound off 2 in rib, 2 in pearl, and I did the bind off in a needle size up from what I was doing the rib in to give more stretch. And I'm glad I did that because it definitely doesn't have any more give than what it is looking like now. Everything goes over my head fine and my arms, etc. And because it's a split hem, at least you don't have the risk of it just hugging your thighs and hips in a unflattering like sack of potatoes way. Because it's a split hem, it's very flowy and open, and the back is longer than the front as well, so that's a nice little detail. But yeah, I mean this hangs beautifully. Like the drape of that is great. It is quite heavy, to be honest, but again, that doesn't really bother me. And I did one more repeat than what the pattern recommends. I think on the photos she has like 8 diamonds and I did 9, and that was just because I was trying to reach the length that she listed in the schematic. So there's a schematic, which is helpful, and I just wanted to reach that length, not reach the number of diamonds, so I had to add 1 more diamond. And I know that a lot of people on Ravelry also had to do that, so yeah, just make sure that you're aware of what the correct measurements should be before you bind off. There's also a very nice lateral braid just before the ribbing, which I'll show in the photos. It's beautiful, it was very easy, it was very fun, and I'm highly tempted to use that technique in the future as a little detail before rib. Like I'm totally stealing that for other sweaters. I think it is just really neat. It's quite subtle, it's a really nice transition. Usually what I do for rib, by the way, as a little tip, is that I do the last round of stockinette that I have to do. I do that in my smaller needles, and then I do the rib in the smaller needles, and that helps me get a smoother transition where the ribbing doesn't get all bumpy or loose. I guess just a tip. And then the other thing as well actually is that My Favorite Things Knitwear has a helpful tip on how to get a tubular bind off for twisted rib, where she basically slips the pearls and knits them through the back loop on the first go around, and on the second go around she slips them normally, like pearl wise, the twisted knits, and then she pearls them normally, and then she does the tubular bind off. So I know some people untwist the twisted stitches or retwist them or something like that, but this is what she does, and I like the way that this gives a really smooth edge even for twisted rib. They don't seem to be, nothing seems to be changing at that area, so yeah, I was happy with that. But back to the Lana vest, I am very satisfied with it, very happy. I love the drape. I love that the drop shoulder drops more than what I had originally feared it wouldn't, and I'm absolutely ready for a cabled sweater now. This is my second cabled vest, so I think it's time now. I need to face my fears. I mean, the difference between that and a sweater is that there's just 2 more sleeves to do, but the big crux of it is the body of the sweater, the body of the vest. There's a lot of rows. Like when I was doing the lana vest, the front panel and the back panel, they went so fast, especially the front because it's a v-neck. You do like two tiny little fronts. That flew by so quickly. And so did the ribbings for the v-neck and the armholes. But then once I had joined in the round and had done all the ribbings and the finishings, it was just the body for so long. And the body was only an 8-row repeat, so I actually memorized it and was able to do it without looking at any charts, and I was able to just like watch Netflix. And I know that a few of the cabled sweaters I've got on my list are maybe going to be a bit more mindful than that and more time consuming and more involved. I don't know, what I'm trying to say is that I love the look of them. I love the final result. I know they're a lot of work, and I'm trying to motivate myself to say that the work is worth it, and it's not all about being really fast, obviously, but also I don't want to get bored halfway through and just like drag it on for too long. Like, I don't mind a long knitting experience if I'm enjoying every moment of it, but I do mind a long knitting experience because it's dragging. So yeah, here's the final cost of this project, and this was actually part of a mini knit along that I did with Flaminia from Shape of My Heart Knitting Podcast and Amy from Knee Knits, and they're both done as well with theirs. Well, I think Amy was doing the ribbing a couple days ago, so hopefully she finished it in time for Thanksgiving for in the US. But yeah, it was quite fun to do that with them. It was nice to have people to talk to and get motivated when we were doing steps and ask for feedback, and it was fun seeing the project grow on their needles as well as mine, and we pretty much all like did it at the same rate. That was also quite nice, and it felt like a group thing, a group effort. I think that's it for the lana vest. So let's just move on to the next couple of finished items, which are not garments. But the first thing was a test knit for Handmade by Florence. I know I said I wouldn't do test knits anymore, but I've changed my mind, and I will not forbid myself from applying for accessories, basically. No more sweater test knits, but accessories are fair game. They're also much more competitive, I assume, because everybody probably has time on the needles for a hat or something as opposed to sweaters. So yeah, less of a chance to get picked. But I was picked for this one. It was the Mountain Walk Chunky Edition, which is a DK weight sock. She has released the fingering weight, sock weight version of those socks. They're really gorgeous. I like that they seem very cozy. I think the cables go well with a DK weight socks. So I originally didn't think that I was gonna have these done for today, but I finished this one a long time ago. We just had to finish one sock for the test net, so I basically just did that very quickly. And then I cast on the second one and was just kind of like playing yarn chicken, first of all. So I lost yarn chicken on this one. I split my ball of yarn in half, and I used more than my allocated half for the first stock. So I knew that I was gonna run out of yarn in the second, which was demotivating. I think Florence herself, when she was designing those, had run into the same problem where it was taking her a while to make the second one because she knew that she was going to run out. But in the end, she won yarn chicken. I knew I wouldn't, so then for the second sock, I just removed a repeat of the leg and then just went on, and then it was fine. So, and I wouldn't have had enough, so it was a good idea to have removed the repeats. And I was a bit bothered by it at first. Of course, I would like my socks to be perfectly symmetrical, but I'd rather have one less repeat of the leg and the same toes, as opposed to running out of yarn in the toe and then have a different color at the toe. I really didn't want that. So here's the second sock. It's actually, I finished it yesterday. Yesterday it was here, and then I did the entire thing. Like, that was amazing. So these socks could be done over a weekend if that was all that you were doing. So if you're running out of Christmas gifts and you only have a couple days to do a Christmas gift for someone in your life, this could be good. They're ribbed and cabled, like it's mock cables actually, so because they're ribbed, it would be easier to fit just anybody. I wanted mine to be snug, so I went down a needle size, and they're on 2.75 instead of 3, and that is actually one of the tips that Florence gives in the pattern. They're one size fits all, and she says that to then adjust the size, you can adjust your needle size, because it was hard otherwise to change the stitch pattern. So this one is blocking because I finished it last night, and as you can see, they're pretty much like identical, even though this one has less rounds. Like, it doesn't even look that way, maybe because it's like stretched. Like, they look so similar, don't they? So yeah, I swear that there's one less repeat. but they're mock cables. The cables are actually mirrored, so in one of the socks they go towards the left, and in one they go towards the right, which I think is a really nice little detail. It's not even like the toes are different, and so you would have to think about which one is the left and which one is the right. Like, even though they're mirrored, you can wear them on either foot, so that's good. The yarn I used, by the way, was some stash yarn I just bought on Lovecraft a while ago because I wanted to try different sock yarns. So this is Novita Venla. I forgot the color, but it's going to be in the description below. And I just held that double. It's very woolly, and I feel like you can tell that there's nylon in it a lot as well. So it's not my favorite, it's not the softest. It wasn't the most pleasant to work with, and I feel like I could pick out the nylon. But I feel like they're seeming to be very durable and like a workhorse yarn that is not gonna just pill or felt after a day. So if that's the price to pay to have nice house socks that I'll like rub on the carpet every single day for like the whole of winter, they won't fall apart, which I'm happy with. But I don't know if I would want to hold it single for a normal sock. But everybody has different preferences. It was just nice to try out a different yarn for once, because I love Arwetta, but it is very flimsy and it felt really easily, so I need to move away from Arwetta, sadly. The funny thing about these cabled brown gold ochre socks is that they're pretty much my second pair, because I made the Hygge socks back in summer from Sari Nordland. They also have one big cable running down the front. It's like a horseshoe cable, I think it's called. So that's the Hygge socks. They're also basically 2x2 rib apart from that. And they're also in this brown color. So I clearly have a type, and it's okay. These are really big actually. They're also one size fits all. And I'm happy to have size down needles for this one. And so I think they'll be more comfortable for me to wear. So I think that's that. I don't know when the pattern will come out. I think Florence said she was going to be working on it this weekend, so I'm guessing it shouldn't be too long. I don't think that there were going to be too many testers or testers notes, because she has already released the fingering weight version of this pattern. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Obviously you can follow her on Instagram if you want to be notified when the pattern comes out, but I'm sure you already do know her and follow her. So I'd recommend only doing 9 repeats on the leg, just to be clear, to not lose yarn chicken if you're planning to do these with only 400 meters or 100 grams of fingering weight yarn held double. And the total cost for these socks then were pretty much bang on the exact cost of that sock yarn, Novita Venla, so I'll put that below. And yeah, just not a single gram of yarn was wasted in this project. Okay, and then the last finished item for today is, I want to do a surprise reveal. Maybe I'll insert a little video here, because I'm probably going to have a lot of fun today going outside and filming some clips. It's indeed a little frog. So I even made him a little sweater as well, even though I said I was done with small circumference knitting. So I don't know if the camera is going to be like happy with me showing this guy, but I'll show photos, I'll show videos. I can't shut up about it. It's just the cutest thing I've ever made. He doesn't have a name, his name is just Frog. He's a guy, and he has a little sweater made of alpaca. This was leftover drops alpaca from my Lento sweater. I had a quantity that was like, 20 grams or something of a ball, so not enough for a sweater, not enough for mitts, so I didn't mind digging into that. I have a lot of Jameson of Shetland spin rift, which the frog is made of, by the way. I have a lot of those colors that I use for color work, Fair Isle things, so I could make him a little red jumper, a little blue jumper. I could make him anything that he wants. So this was in olive and in white for the belly. I'm gonna flash him, sorry. Ooh. The eyes are super wonky. You may have seen them in my previous episodes. I only had the body done. If you haven't watched my previous episode, by the way, sorry, let me tell you about Frog. So I started him in July 2022, and I made the entire body in a day or two, put the eyes, filled it, sewed it together, and he was just a body and a head. And that was so finicky, and I was so worried about the legs and arms being finicky as well, that I just kept on putting it off. And I was also sad that the eyes were not symmetrical. Like one of them is here and one of them is here, basically. And so I gave up on him, and I put him aside somewhere, like it's a tiny little item. I just shoved it in a box, and then it was still a project on my Ravelry in the hibernating tab, so it's not like I forgot about him completely. But then when I was making that video and taking him out, I just kept it like in plain sight on my desk, and I was just like, come on, you will be able to make the legs and the arms in 1 day or 2 days. And I was thinking of putting wire in to make them bendable and posable, but that was adding a very big barrier mentally. So I gave up on that idea. I just thought, no, just finish that one, make it as easy as possible for yourself, just pick up and do the arms and legs. Don't try and make it perfect, just see if you can do it, and if you're happy with it, and if there's lessons to be learned. And then I did that, and I'm really happy, because then it actually did only take a day to make the legs and the arms. It was really fast. Like it was just, and it was easy because you just had to follow the row by row instructions. I will say there's a few typos in the pattern, but I've documented these on my Ravelry notes. Like for example, at some point, I can't actually remember what the typos were, and I think the pattern may have been updated in the meantime, where some of the typos other people had mentioned in their notes, they have been resolved, but I just wrote down all of the typos people had talked about on my Ravelry notes. But apart from that, it was easy to follow. It was just, it's so finicky, and the yarn is dark, so sometimes if you have to pick up stitches in stitches, it's hard to know where they start and where they end. But I just tried to not be perfectionist about it. The sweater was very easy to make as well. I made it on double pointed needles. That's the thing, actually, for the limbs. I used DPNs to make that as opposed to straight or circular needles, and it made things so much easier, because after every row, because it's kind of I-cords, you have to you never turn your work. You always kind of just like get it back to the right, like you stay always with the right side facing you. So DPNs were just easy to just slide your whole work across, carry the yarn behind, keep going, then slide it, put the yarn behind, keep going. It was very easy to do it that way. Trying to think if there's anything else to say about this. It's just, I'm so happy I have it. I don't want to make another one, basically. As much as it would be cute to have a little girlfriend, I don't know. But yeah, lots of people said that they have this pattern, like they bought it when all the craze was happening and they never did it. Well, I motivate you, like please do it, because it's, every time that I see him, like on my living room or on a table, it makes me so happy, but I'm not rushing to make another one. However, Claire Garland has a few other like free patterns, and I have a couple of paid ones, and something that I want to do for my boyfriend, for example, as a surprise, not for Christmas, but maybe for our anniversary in January or Valentine's Day in February, depending on if I manage to finish it in time in January, is to make a puppy. So there's a pattern that's kind of like a course on Domestica from Claire Garland, where you can make any puppy, any breed. She has like a very detailed guide on how to make different snouts and different markings, different shapes. So that's going to be really helpful. I need to buy yarn for that, and I think it'll be easier because the puppy will be larger. Like this was absolutely tiny to work on. So I think if I'm working with more stitches, it'll be easier. But I know it'll still be hard, but I don't want to give up on making stuffies, because they are amazing. And it's just a skill that I'm not good at right now, but I want to improve on, and the only way to do that is to practice. And if it means having a few wonky animals in the process, then so be it. There's another frog pattern that's called like Frog and Toad or something, which is a much bigger little frog, and I think I want to buy that pattern and make that, to have just maybe like start a collection of knitted frogs. I know I could crochet some as well, so yeah, I think that's it for that. That section seemed a bit rambly, but I'm just not as comfortable talking about stuffies as I am about garments, I guess. But let me know if you've made any stuffies, if you have any advice. It just feels like a bit more freehand when you have to shape it by hand and you have to do all those like squishing and like darning stitches. It's just less of an exact science, it feels like, which is where I'm less comfortable. Okay, so works in progress. Because I have still quite a lot of projects that I've been flashing in every single episode for the last 2 or 3 episodes, I'm not going to bore you by going into a lot of detail about them. I'll just quickly update on my progress, and I'll say what's new about them, but I really won't say what I've already said before. I hope that this kind of way of dealing with the conundrum works for you. And if you're curious about like the details, then yeah, just by all means, please go watch the previous episodes. So the first one is the Syra sweater. Oh, actually, there's a way of saying it. The Sura sweater by Tricot Design MCL. Someone pointed out the correct pronunciation of it, so thank you. I kind of turned the sleeves inside out so it'd be easier to work on the body. But yeah, spoiler alert, I finished the sleeve. Both of them. I think last time I had finished one. So yeah, I finished both of them, and they have a nice little pleat. The sweater's a drop shoulder. It has a bit of a puff on the drop shoulder, and then it has a pleat at the sleeve, which looks like this. I think it's a box pleat is what they call it. I know it's quite dark, but as you can see, it just like naturally folds there. And you can put like your fingers in that fold. So yeah, it's kind of weird because even though I did them right, I triple checked, they don't seem symmetrical. Like on one of them, the shoulder puff follows right into that gap, and on the other one it doesn't. And I don't know if it's something to do with left sleeve, right sleeve, or if it's going to be noticeable when I wear it. I haven't actually tried this on since doing the sleeves, but I really hope it won't be a problem. I think it won't, but just something I'm kind of mindful of. So yeah, here's the sweater. So this is in fingering weight yarn. It's in Kinross 4-ply in the color Beadlet. The color is ticking every box for me. It's very nice and dark and like moody and like elegant. It feels very elegant. The sweater, I think I'm doing the size small. Let me just check for you. Yeah, I'm doing the size small, and the neck is not a big chunky neck. It's only like 3 centimeters, then like folded, so like 6 centimeters, and then folded to only be 3, which is a difference from all of those big worsted weight, big chunky colors. This feels just like very subtle. There's short row shaping on the shoulders, and the drop shoulder, the sleeves, I feel like the sleeve hits at a really nice point on my shoulder, where when I tried it on, it was very nice and fitted and not too oversized. So it's not like a hugely boxy sweater, but it's not like figure hugging either. I think there's just the right amount of ease at that. Maybe there'll be like, maybe not a lot of ease at the bust, and then obviously a bit more ease under the bust. And I'm just pulling along and doing the body right now. I'm really enjoying it. It's on 3.5mm needles in fingering weight, and the yarn is really nice and like soft right now, even though the true magic happens when you block the Kinross 4-ply. That's when it really blooms and softens up and feels like cashmere, and I can't wait to wear this. I think this might be a finished item in the next one, because I think I only have maybe, let's see, I think the pin here is halfway through what I need to do. So, and this is where the sleeve is picked up. So maybe here is what I need to do. I don't know if this makes any sense on camera, but yeah, a few more centimeters, then some ribbing. I need to double check whether the length recommended in the pattern is a length that I want. I might take another sweater I have as a template and see if I want it longer or shorter. I'm always so indecisive when it comes to body length, as you may have seen, but I don't think you can really go wrong with it. There's no wrong answer, and whatever I choose, sometimes I have decision paralysis because of the fact that you can modify everything, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily should, and it's completely fine to just do what the pattern designer tells you to do lengthwise. But yeah, really happy with this one. Looking forward to washing and blocking this and seeing the final effect of the balloon sleeves, like the pleats and the puff. I just really am curious to see how this fits me, because it's not something that I have a lot of in my wardrobe, color-wise or style-wise, and I like the way that this pattern designer writes her patterns, and I really like her range of designs, and I have a few in my like library and a few in my queue, So I totally foresee a lot more of Tricot Design MCL in the future. She also has a podcast, I think it's in French. She's from Quebec. So yeah, go watch her if you're French speaking. I know there's a lot of you that speak French that watch me. Next project I'll flash through quickly. I've also spoken a lot about that in a previous episode. It's the Coming Soon sweater by Paul Strict, and here it is. So I've just picked up and done the neck yesterday, just to again give it a bit more of a finished look, even though it's nowhere close to being finished. It's all on a small cable right now, but there is more than meets the eye. I've done quite a lot of increases already. It's a raglan increase. It's a very big chunky raglan actually, because yeah, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see like the diagonal lines. I know the lighting is terrible. I might show some photos. But last time basically I had done the first repeat of all the body and sleeve increases. The repeat is quite detailed. I think that it's a 12-row repeat because you increase at different rates on the body and the sleeves. So the way that I did that was that I wrote down the 12 rows basically on my phone, where I wrote body increase, then sleeve increase, then no increase at all, then body and sleeve, then no increase. Like I wrote the sequence in my notes with tick boxes, and whenever I do one of those rounds, I tick it off. And then that way I always know what row I'm on, even though I could read the knitting. And then I also get a better idea of how close am I to finishing that sequence. And then you have to do that whole 12-row repeat like 5 or 6 times for my size. So I've done pretty much 1.5 so far, and then we'll split for sleeves later. But yeah, I struggled a lot with this pattern at the start, and you will have seen that in my previous episode, but since then it's been really enjoyable to work on actually. It's very rhythmic, it's kind of mindless. Like as long as I have my phone with what repeat I'm supposed to be doing next to me, I can do that with Netflix, and I just like always just follow my instructions. And yeah, it is satisfying to see it grow. I'm really happy with the fact that this pattern has the wrong side of brioche showing as opposed to the right side. I think it's really, really plump and chunky. This yarn really bloomed when I washed my gauge swatch, so I'm looking forward to again dunking this in water, even though this is already next to Skin Soft and looks really great as it is. If you're doing this project, by the way, message me. We have a little group chat on Instagram. There's like 3-4 of us, maybe 5. And it's like a long-term project. So if you're just starting this project or you're wanting to start it, let me know and we can all motivate each other, because I really, really want this finished item in my wardrobe. I don't want to lose steam, and I ran out of yarn, which is why I was doing the neck, but I'm going to reattach a ball of yarn today and get back in the swing of things. I think maybe I'll add another cable to that to make it longer. But yeah, not much else to say. Like, it's been fine, and I'm motivated to do a few more patterns from Paula Strict. She has some really nice accessory designs, like the Olay hat and the Olay mittens, which are also brioche, and I really want to do a matching set of them. So yeah, they're on my list too. And I'm using the Rarum Natura, by the way, in Ulysse. No, yeah, the Rarum Natura Ulysse in Forêt is what I'm using for this. Actually, the other thing I wanted to say was that there's no short rows in the pattern, and I wasn't going to try and do short rows at the beginning because that's when I was trying to get to grips with the pattern, but I'm really heavily considering doing some short rows before splitting for sleeves or after splitting for sleeves. I can't remember what the correct way of doing it is. If you know, tell me. But I have a pattern from Sari Nordland that had a wedge of short rows at that area, and that was a way of getting around not doing any for the color work that the yoke was made of. So I might do that, but obviously it's a really complicated stitch pattern, half fisherman's rib brioche, so I might practice on a swatch how I would go around doing my German short rows turns. And I'm motivated. I really want to do that because I don't want to do this whole pattern and not do short rows and then not like the fit, and it'll be something that would be really hard to fix, because now is the time at the underarm split, because I wasn't going to do it at the neck, and doing it at the back, at the bottom, won't change anything. So here, that yoke area would be the perfect time to do some short rows. And I am semi-confident in my ability to find the right numbers, but in terms of technique and being able to do the short rows in that brioche stitch, I'm not sure. The Travelers, no, the Seasons cardigan by Ozetta had some short rows for half fisherman's rib where you were like knitting below, etc. And they were invisible, and she had written them out line by line, so I might have to like borrow some items from this, even though they're not the same gauge, but just in terms of like what row you do them on, like the knit even row or the knit below row. So basically, I'm trying to keep myself accountable. I'm telling you that I am really motivated to add short row shaping here before or after the sleeve split, but I hope I'm able to achieve that. And if you have any tips or guidance or resources or people you know that have done that, let me know, because I am desperate to not ruin this piece and also to elevate it to a standard that like I know I enjoy wearing. So yeah, that's a request for you. Next little whip is my Pinecone socks by Amanita Knits, and they're actually a half finished object because I did finish the first sock. This is made in Retrosaria Mondim, which is a 100% non-superwash wool, no nylon sock yarn. And yeah, I had shown you before, I had done the folded twisted rib cuff, had done 2 sets of pine cones, and I was doing this heel, which is actually called a strong heel, people have told me, which was really nice of you. And then you go and you do the whole leg, which has little sort of bubbles intermittently. You can see my magic loop line here, which is not perfect, but oh well. But yeah, you can see the little bubbles all throughout. And last time I spoke to you, I was having issues with the heel because the stitch counts weren't matching. You have to split your like instep and sole stitches, and you have to resolve like some short rows, and then you have to kind of have a certain amount of stitches on the needles on each needle. Then you have to change around where the beginning of the round marker is, etc, etc. Basically, it was just doing my head in. I could not understand where I had gone wrong. I ended up like unpicking, like thinking back 2 or 3 rows, followed the instructions again, made the same mistake somehow, and unpicked it, did the instructions again, got it wrong again. I was just getting very frustrated and just very, very frustrated. And then in the end, I told myself it wasn't worth getting too upset over it, and I was like, the heel was done at this point. I just needed to have stitches back on to do the rest of the leg. So I just kind of fudged it, and I cannot tell you what I did to fudge it. I took some notes on Ravelry, which I'm hoping to use to replicate it on the second sock, obviously. But yeah, basically I must have done some kind of like knit 2 together or like make 1 to kind of get back to the right amount of stitches, while always being mindful not to have any gaps or holes. And it worked out. So I'm sorry I can't be any more descriptive. I know it might be frustrating if you're having the same problem, but it was just a very big hurdle. I somehow got over the hurdle, and then after that it was very smooth sailing for the length of the foot, and then for the toe it was very enjoyable to do. There's actually a little tip in the pattern on how to avoid like the bunny ears you get at the toe when you do Kitchener, but I forgot to put that tip into practice when doing it. I just went and did my Kitchener stitch as I usually do. So for the second sock, I'm going to make sure to remember to try that tip, because it does bother me to have the bunny ears when I do the Kitchener stitch. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, can you see this? I guess you can't really see it. Like, it's not a huge issue, but yeah, it's those corners here. But yeah, super pleased with those. I don't know why I haven't cast on. Well, I do know it. It's second sock syndrome. I think my 2mm needles are busy, which I used for the cuff, and then I'm doing the 2.25 for the rest of the body. So yeah, I really need to put the second one on the needles. Ideally finish it before December. That's like 12 days. Yeah, I should really try and finish the second one before December, and then we can move on from the autumn socks. But yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful item, and I'm very, very pleased to have it, but I don't think there's anything else to say. And obviously I'll show you when I finish the pair, but I don't think I have anything more to say than I haven't already said in today's episode or the previous one. So yeah, happy with the strong heel method, and looking forward to maybe trying that heel again in a different pattern that maybe doesn't have as complicated a stitch pattern. The next one then is the Traveler's Cardigan by Ozetta. I'm doing this on 5mm needle, so I sized down. I'm doing this with Mencholope Wool Dreamers in green. Oh, it is so dark. And I've done quite a bit of progress. So here is my cardigan. It's done, basically. No, I'm kidding. It's a vest. So it's all done except for the sleeves. I've even sewed in buttons, as you can see, which that's very unlike me. Also, they're mother of pearl, and I love how that looks. It's very, very dreamy. I think I did a good job at picking a button that matches the vibe of this color. This wouldn't have suited black buttons, I don't think. My worry with this is that it looks quite small, although it doesn't really. It also is quite cropped, but half of that is because I cropped it on purpose. I had to redo a bunch of math because the button band for this is at the same time as you do the body, so you're doing your buttonholes as you're doing the body, which doesn't give you a lot of leeway for improvisation. So what I did was that I preemptively knew I wanted to remove about 5 centimeters, calculated with my gauge that meant I had to remove, let's say, 20 rows, and so I removed those 20 rows evenly between the 5 buttons. So I think what I did, and I'm making up numbers right now, but I think what I really did was that I removed 4 rows between all the buttons, except I removed 2 rows between 1 and 2, and 2 rows between 4 and 5, and then 4, 4, 4 is what I did. And yeah, I don't know if that's gonna pay off. I don't know what this is gonna look like on me. Like, I've tried it on, but it's very stiff still, and I know it will relax with washing. I also want to like stretch it out, which I know it will. I mean, look at that give. And then obviously the sleeves are gonna happen. They're balloon sleeves, then they like join at the cuff. For the ribbing, I bound off in pattern, which I think was an absolute necessity. I couldn't do tubular bind off with unspun. The buttons I also sewed with some yarn I had in stash. It was a Sendus Garn Sisu in this kind of green color, because I wasn't gonna be like threading unspun through buttons. Like, I don't know what you're meant to do. Anyway, I thought that was a good match between this and this. Very pleased with that. I filmed a little reel, which I'll put on screen, of me showing my trick for how to sew buttons on, but basically I do it over a needle tip, and then that gives me a bit of a gap between the body of the sweater and the button, and I wrap the yarn around that gap until it's kind of stable, and then that creates a stable gap between the button and the body, where the opposite button band can lodge itself in a neat way without forcing or tugging or pulling anywhere, and then that creates a level surface. So I hope that was clear. I didn't come up with that myself. I took it from a Kimi Munholm Petite Knit support video for the Champagne cardigan, and I've used that ever since for every button I've ever made, and I'm really, really pleased with it. It's very secure, I've never lost a button, and I'm very pleased with the fact that the buttons are all evenly spaced on this. Like, I think that's the star of the show, is the buttons are very nice. But yeah, I'm looking forward to picking up and doing the sleeves on that. I think that should go quite fast because this pattern was a lot of start and stop because of the fact that you had a lot happening with the button bands on both sides, specifically. Like, it was just a lot to deal with, and I didn't fully enjoy it. I was doing it with circular needles at first, then I used some DPNs, which made the process easier, but I just really missed just doing an afterthought button band. And I know a lot of Ozeta's patterns have this concurrent button band, and I'm trying to think if there's a way for me to just not do that. And I think the solution will just be to do some kind of double knit button band on them instead of following the instructions. I think for the field day cardigan, which is on my list, she does that technique, and I might not enjoy that as much. Although maybe it's also the fact it was unspun yarn that it removed the enjoyment of doing that button band experience. I added 2 stitches on the side of it as well to give me more ease, but I said that last time. And yeah, I'm doing this project with Marlene from Marlene Knits. We're having a call next week, so we'll be hopefully chatting about this project and about just knitting in general and life. And yeah, I'm kind of just looking forward to being done with this one. As you can probably tell from me speaking here, it's not the project I'm the most enthralled about or enthused, but I don't hate it, and it is satisfying to tick this off my list in terms of technique and yarn and color. Like, it's definitely adding variety to my knitting. I hope it changes a little bit with blocking. I'm not 100% satisfied with how it is right now. Okay, so that was it for all my projects. I hope that was enjoyable. Like I said, I'm not quite sure how to deal with the fact that a lot of those projects were started at around the same time, and progress is being made on them at very much the same pace. And so it's like, I've added a sleeve here, I've added a button band here. Like, there's not much else to say. But I do want to update you on the progress, because progress has been made. But there there has been one more project, so that's a new one. I will show you now. And it is the VMAC color by Sari Nordland. This was on my list of autumn plans. A very kind viewer gifted me the pattern, which motivated me to immediately swatch. I think I showed the swatch last time. And here's what I've got so far. So this is the back that's on hold, and here's the turtleneck and the front. So it's a collar or bib or dicky, and it's looking quite small right now, and I have tried it on and I can fit my head through, but it is a little snug, so I'm hoping that with blocking I'm able to like get a bit more width here. And same for the shoulders, you have some shoulders here that you then pick up and do the front from, and pick up and do the back from. The shoulders need to be a bit wider. I don't think they need to go all the way to the end of my shoulder, but I think they need a bit more length. Then the whole front panel is a cable motif, as you can see here. And I will say, it is quite an involved pattern. I have to be looking at the chart pretty much the whole time. It's not the most intuitive. There's a lot of things that kind of change and happen, and different rates of them happening, like when you're twisting your cables, or yeah. And then you have the moss stitch, which it's like a double moss stitch, so you have 2 rows of knit, 2 rows of purls, like scattered, and you have like the right side and the wrong side because you're working flat. And the moss stitch, instead of being like right knit, wrong knit, right purl, wrong purl, it's scattered. So you're changing the sequence of knits and purls on the wrong side, which is not the way that my brain would have preferred it to work. So that's always an added difficulty at the beginning of the row. I'm like, am I doing a knit or a purl? Obviously I read the knitting, but I feel like it would have been easier to remember for me to like, you always knit or you always purl on the right side, or vice versa. There's an I-cord on the edge, which you're doing at the same time, which is really nice. And then there's like the cables at the beginning. I've made a mistake twice, and I just decided to undo it and re-pick up the stitches and then redo it, because like it's just a very short amount of stitches. It's not that much, so undoing a few rounds is nothing, which is enjoyable, because otherwise, if this was a sweater, it would take me a long time. Basically, this is like a lot of work, but I'm pretty much more than halfway done, because I'm almost at the point where I'm going to curve this to finish it, and then I just have the back to do, but everything else is done from this bib. So I think this will be a finished object next time for sure. I just ran out of yarn for this. I've got 2 more balls, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish. I'm kind of playing yarn chicken, and like, I don't know. And if I do, I need to buy 1 more ball of lana Peruvian Highland wool in burnt sienna. And I'm kind of hoping I run out of yarn, because I want some more lana in other colors and quantities, and it would be worth adding that to the order. So I'm hoping I run out of yarn, and then I'll do an order at lana. But if not, then I will have knitted this from stash, which I guess is a good thing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having my first color. Actually, here's a little hint. I got accepted into another test knit for a color. You may know which one. So I probably will have another color to show as well next episode, because the deadline for that is quite short. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. It's nice to have some kind of quick progress on a piece and that the rows are short. And it's very, very pretty. It's a really pretty chart. Sari Nordland knows what she's doing when it comes to cables and lace and fun constructions. Like the pattern is very well thought out in terms of the shoulder shaping. There's some short rows at the front. There's an I-cord edging that is reminding me of the way that I did the finishings for my Kutar top. So it felt kind of familiar working on this, even though it was my first time doing this shape of garment. And I just trust her to have clear instructions. There's a chart, and I think there's written instructions as well. And I think this pattern is underrated. There's not that many projects on Ravelry, but I'm sure a lot of people would have the stash required. It's like 400 meters basically that you need of DK or worsted. I think DK is what's recommended. And I'm doing that on 3.5 millimeters, so quite a tight, dense gauge for it. But that's fine because I want this to be a nice windproof sort of layer for the neck. So now that is really it for my for my works in progress. I am losing a bit of my trains of thoughts and getting rambly, and I don't want this to be, again, like an hour and a half. So yeah, future plans. We have a Christmas jumper coming soon. I showed the yarn last time. I was ecstatic about the Camarose Manistral in white. It was really hard for me to get my hands on it, but I did, and I swatched with it with the Woolly Knit Merino in white, which was gifted to me. So now we have this swatch, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see the glitter and the shimmer. If not, just take my word for it. And if you don't know the holly sweater, it's like that, just circular yoke sweater, and it has some holly leaves and berries on the yoke. And I was thinking, I'm doing it all from stash, and I'm wondering if I should have a fluffy strand with the green and the red, or if I should make the berries and the leaves just in like double strand of merino with no fluff. And that way, I don't know, maybe it'll be a bit more 3D, maybe it'll be standing out more in the sea of fuzzy white. What do you think? Because I do have I have green and I have red, and I have fluffy green and fluffy red, so I could do both. But I'm leaning towards just holding the red and the green double without adding fluff. And yeah, I'll be casting on this very soon. Next thing that I cast off, I'm casting on the holly sweater. Next, I bought some yarn at Knitting for Olive. They were having a free delivery type thing sale, so I got some Knitting for Olive heavy merino, because I wanted to pair it with some alpaca that I showed last episode. It's from Nervous Fiber, and it is this beautiful color. It's like, what is happening here? It's like beige, gray, brown, pinkish, bluish. It's so pretty. And in fact, it is so pretty, and there's so much going on that I didn't know what to pair it with. So I put a poll on my Instagram. I didn't know whether to pair it with a Nordic Beach, which is beige, Pearl Grey, which is grey, and Cloud, which is a off-white leaning towards pink. And I put them all together, and Pearl Grey was the clear winner, and to be honest, it was kind of my first choice. I think I even said that in my previous episode, it was to pair it with the Pearl Grey. And I swatched this with some white and grey I had in stash, not heavy merino. And I'll show you the photo here of what it was. And that kind of convinced me that I wanted to go for the grey, because I feel like a white main strand with a fluffy hand-dyed is just so, not overdone. Like, obviously people can do whatever they want, but it was just like, I don't want to keep buying hand-dyed yarn and always hold it with a white. Otherwise my sweaters are all going to look the same. And then what's the point of buying expensive hand-dyed? I want them to be different, so they stay unique. And so I thought that pairing this with a grey would keep its uniqueness, and that way I can keep the idea of holding a white main strand with another sweater down the line that really would benefit from a white, whereas this one looked really good with a grey. Decisions. It's always so hard, isn't it, when you have so much free choice. But yeah, so that is going to come. And then the other thing, and there's going to be a Sonja sweater by Petite Knit. I don't know if I've said that. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to cast on some accessories. So I didn't know if I was going to cast on a beret that was on my autumn list, or I've got some hand-dyed yarn from Zakami that I bought in summer. It's called Healing Symphony, and my camera hates this because it is so bright. It is the perfect shade of coral-ish pink. Like, it's very cool toned red. I think it's more pink than red. I don't know. It is really, really, really pretty. And it's Corriedale, 100% non-superwash Corriedale. And I have just enough yardage to make a pair of penny gloves and a muscle bra hat, which I've already made before. So these are my fingering weight penny gloves, like hack. I've made up my own numbers for them, and they only use I think 40 grams of fingering weight yarn. And then it's my muscle bra hat. I made this one also in hand dyed from Nervous Fiber, and I know that this one took me basically 360 grams. So together that's 400 meters. Yeah. So I meant meters. So 40 meters, 360 meters. And I just want this to be matching, so I'll make this in this, is the plan. I hope that that made sense. I think I'll make the gloves first and make them to the length that I want, which is pretty much that exact same recipe. And then whatever I have left, I'll do the hat. The hat pattern comes with a nice formula that tells you, if you input how much yarn you have from the start, then it tells you when to stop the length before you start decreasing. Like, it does guide you towards a good yarn management system. And I'll put some photos of me wearing this hat when I was taking some photos of this sweater. I was noticing that the hat was a little bit pointy at points, and I wasn't quite a fan of that, so I think I want to make the hat smaller anyway, so it is more snug and less slouchy and less pointy. So I want this to use less yarn anyway, and I think I'll also go down in needle size. But yeah, I don't know why I'm being so detailed about this. This is supposed to just be a draft of a plan, but I think I will have cast this on by the next episode, and I'm looking forward to having a very nice coordinating pair of winter accessories in a fun color. I'm doing well for my autumn plans. I'll put a photo here of like tick box of the patterns that I've either finished or started. So as you can see, I'm quite on track to have done the majority of them, to be honest, except a couple sweaters. And I was asking your opinions on Instagram what my next vest should be or my next sweater. And a lot of people voted for the Elizabeth blouse, but I just don't feel like it's the right time. Like, I just don't really want to do it right now. I don't know why. I'm more leaning towards doing the office sweater by Knit Flitter in this gorgeous blue yarn from Isager. This is Alpaca 1 and Alpaca 2, both in the color 54. I showed this in a couple episodes ago. I think I just want some stockinette knitting, and the office sweater has a bit of a saddle shoulder and then some raglans, and then it's just going to be super simple. And I think I'm really craving that. So I think that this will be the last sweater from my autumn knitting plans that I cast on. And again, I think I need to finish a sweater first before casting on, because I need to stay a bit more focused. And then I also wanted to do a vest, and I wanted to do the vest number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and the yarn I have for that is like some basically white fingering and white mohair, but I don't want to also be working on my holly sweater at the same time in white fluffy as well. So I think I might just not do the vest right now. And it's also all over cables, and I think what I really want right now is stockinette, because a lot of my projects are cables, and this one will be color work, and I just want something simple to work on. Okay, I think that's it for the plans. I guess speaking of plans, I do want to tease an announcement that I will say in a couple of weeks for the podcast episode 21. I'm planning something very, very big for my podcast anniversary in January. I started podcasting on the 2nd of January. I had filmed my episodes before the new year, but I posted it after the new year, new beginnings. And it would really mean the world to me if you were here with me to celebrate that anniversary and to see what I've got planned. So maybe mark the dates in your calendars for something special. I've been thinking about this for about a month now and have already set things in motion, got in contact with some people, and it's all building up, it's all starting to feel really real, and I'm almost at the point where I can tell you what's happening. And I'm nervous and excited and feeling very creative about the planning about it. Like, it makes me really happy to think about it, make the plans, write down to-do lists, like message people. I feel very good and fulfilled planning this thing, and I know that the reception from other things I've planned in the past for the channel has been good, so I know that you guys usually like what I do, so I hope that you like what I'm doing here too. So mark the date, 2nd of January, and I will tell you all about it next time. So that is it for today. I know it's been a bit of a long episode, and I hope it wasn't too rambly towards the end. I'm glad I did this podcast and I didn't wait for another week to do it, otherwise it would have been way too much to cover, and I am already feeling a bit of the brain fog coming back, but I think I said everything that I wanted to say. I do really enjoy hearing from you, so if you wanted to let me know if you're still knitting your autumn plans, if you had any, or if you're already thinking about winter. I can already tell myself being a little done with autumn and already feeling inspired by winter. I've already earmarked and favorited and bundled a bunch of winter projects, so you probably will see a video from me in December that's all about my winter knitting plans. And what I intend to do is to kind of do a reflection on my autumn plans, what I ended up doing, what I learned from it, and also I was on a goal to not purchase as much yarn because I was going to be knitting from stash. I didn't fully succeed in doing that, but I want to talk about that and reflect on that for winter because I'm also planning to knit from stash a lot this winter. So yeah, I want to make sure there's a section in that video where I talk about the autumn plans, sort of summary, and then move on to the winter plans. But yeah, I'm also looking forward to making my Everything I've Knit in 2023 video. It's going to be a huge one. I'm already thinking of the format that's going to best work for my purposes. I want to make sure I cover how much I've worn these pieces, how they have worn, are they like damaged or show signs of wear and tear. And if you have any requests or things that you'd like me to talk about in that video, let me know. Do you want me to model them? Do you want me to use past footage of me modeling them? Do you want me to talk about costs and a reflection on that and rank them possibly? So yeah, just let me know what you're expecting from this type of video or what you like from past videos of people who've done this before. I've done it before. That was one of my first videos in January, was like reviewing my 2022 knits, and I'm not satisfied with that video, so I want to make sure I change things up for this iteration. So yeah, give me some advice on that maybe. And yeah, I'll see you all next week for a Christmas episode about gift giving for knitters. So, you know, you receive the gifts as opposed to you make them for other people. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a really great one, and you can send it to your friends and family for inspiration. And then I'll see you in 2 weeks for podcast episode 21 with the special announcement. Take care everybody, and see you next time. Bye!